Hello there, and welcome to a Thomas Wooden Railway review. This here is the 1997 version of the Thomas Wooden Railway Roundhouse set. Now, this Wooden Railway Roundhouse set that I have built up is actually made up of a combination of things that I've had when I was a kid and things that I've gotten in the past couple of years, and a couple of things that I had gotten very recently to get this set all set up. I am going to point out, and I'm sure a number of you have already noticed, that the things, not everything is accurate to what was included in the original set. And I will go over those during this review video. A number of things that are included in this set would include a couple of engines, and I will look over those individually. In fact, right now, first we have Thomas right here, and, well, he's basically everyone, well, you pretty much know Thomas. Now, the version of Thomas was not this version right here. The one that would have appeared in the original Roundhouse set was the 90s version. This one is the 2000s version, as are most of the engines that are actually used on this set. Another one that is included in the, well, what was included in the original set is D199, also known as Spam Can. I do apologize. Yeah, I guess it's better to do it with this hand, because if I'm using my other hand, it's blocking off the view. But anyway, the version that was included in the original set was, again, the 90s version, and this one is actually the limited re-release of D199, which came out in, I think, sometime around 2003 or 2004. I think 2004, but I'm not entirely sure exactly. I never got the original 90s version of D199, and I thought that this one looked much better than the older one, which of course is the case for every, or nearly all, of the Thomas Wooden Railway items, where I just think that they look better in the updated versions. I think I've looked over D199 in an earlier video, and just in case I haven't, here he is now. But there are a number of things I'm going to be looking over in this video that I have not looked over previously. So that's another character that's included in this set. Next, we have Skarloey, the #1 engine of the narrow gauge railway. The one that was included in the original set was the 90s version. The one you are looking at is the 2012 release of Skarloey. This is the Skarloey that was included in the Blue Mountain Mystery multi-engines pack, which included Skarloey, as well as Rusty, Rheneas, and Paxton, but I think I've looked over those characters in previous videos. So there's not really a lot for me to discuss about Skarloey that I haven't discussed before, just except for the fact that Skarloey was a character that was included in the original Roundhouse set, but not this version of him, obviously, but the original version of Skarloey. Next up is Stepney, the Bluebell engine. This is, again, the 2004 release of Stepney, which, this is actually a Stepney that I got in the Stepney and the Museum Cars pack. Well, I got a used one off of eBay, so there were, I'm not quite sure what to exactly say. They were used, so they weren't in the best condition. In fact, I've had to redraw Stepney's eyebrows because the originals had faded out from the previous owner's play of this train. But anyway, the museum cars aren't not used because they were not included in this set. So there's that. But anyway, again, this is not the version that you would get in the original Roundhouse set, but I just thought that I would show this off just to give some idea about what the set would look like if it was re-released during Thomas Wooden Railway's life cycle. Now here is Coldee. This is the most recent version of Coldee. This is the one that came out in 2015. There were 3 different versions of Coldee, and the one that was included in the original Roundhouse set obviously was not this one. It was the 90s version of Coldee. And then there was also the 2004 version of Coldee, which came out with the Apple Orchard cars. And then this Coldee is the most recent version. Now, I had gotten this off of eBay, new by the way. It was new in the package, and, you know, I never got Coldee in Thomas Wooden Railway form. I did have a couple of Ertl models of him, but this is the first time in which I've ever gotten a Wooden Railway version of Coldee. Now, when I had seen Coldee, like, well, the Wooden Railway version in stores, as well as in the barber shop, where they actually had this Wooden Railway set up in the waiting room for kids to play around in while they were waiting for their turn to get their haircuts. I looked at the Wooden Railway Coldee that was on that. Well, anytime that I see, see any version of Wooden Railway Coldee, I just did not really know who the character was, at least before I got the Railway series book. And, what I don't quite understand is, why does he have a second face on the back? And, all of the mountain engines have that, have a second face on the back. I was kind of wondering, is that supposed to be like a different character, over on the back? But I think it's actually supposed to be Coldee himself. Like, it's just a second face. Presumably, the mountain engines just switch back and forth between what faces they are looking out of, and the back end face presumably is supposed to be for being able to see what's behind them, like when they are going up the mountain. I'm not entirely sure. It probably is very complicated. I'm not sure if they've ever explained that in the Railway series, and of course, the mountain engines have not been adapted into television as of the time of the recording of this video. But I think that they had confirmed that Coldee Fell Railway does exist in the TV series, but we have not seen them actually on screen. So it would be good if we saw that at some point. I think that when this version of Coldee was released, or at least was released in some form of merchandise, not just Thomas Wooden Railway, I think there was an image that showed possible CGI version of Coldee, which implied that they may have at some point had plans on bringing the mountain engines into the TV series, like they did with the small railway engines in Sodor Legend of the Lost Treasure. But they have not appeared in the TV series as of yet, so that's quite unfortunate. Another thing that is included in the set is Scruffy, or SC Ruffy as some people have called him, but the TV series called him Scruffy. And obviously this is not the version that you would have gotten in that set. This is the 2006 re-release of Scruffy, the limited re-release, which I got when it came out. And, it's quite interesting that they would include Scruffy in that set, because while he was an interesting character, that we didn't get to see a lot of him in the series, mostly because he only appeared in one story in the Railway series and one episode of the TV series. And I am aware that there were other versions of Scruffy that were later released, such as a version that came out in 2015 with the I think with the carrying the dynamite cars, like in Sodor's Legends of the Lost Treasure. And there's also the Thomas Wood version that actually looked pretty good, even though it came out during the time wherein Thomas Wood had the exposed parts. But since that version of Scruffy was made of mostly plastic, he did not look as bad as some of the engines did. But, you know, I think I've looked over this version of Scruffy before, so there's not really a lot for me to talk about this time. The set also came with some circus cars, although these ones, I'm not quite sure if the exact same animals would be used, because I think that the circus cars actually had the animals be changed out over the years. So I'm pretty sure it's not the same ones for each variation of the circus cars, because I think there was at some point maybe a giraffe or maybe a zebra or something. I'm not quite sure, but anyway, these versions here features a lion, a tiger, and an elephant. And no bear, by the way. Oh dear, there's no bear. Yeah. Yeah, this is another thing that I did not have before getting this set all built up. And I do find the circus cars to be impressive. But the thing here is that the circus cars, while they do look pretty good, and the animals do look pretty good too, there's a bit of an issue with them, and I will show you what that issue is. The issue with the circus cars is that if you want to play with them very successfully, you need to do it on a set that doesn't have any bridges to go under or tunnels to go through. And unfortunately, this is not the best set for them. And you want to know why? Well, I'm pretty sure a lot of people know this already, but when I was recording this video, I have not seen anybody else bring this up, but it is something that I have noticed when I was a kid, seeing these in stores or anywhere else, as well as also observing them in the pictures. But here's the thing. If you want to take the circus trains with the animals inside of them through any tunnels or under any bridges, well, you can't. Because the animals are just too tall. Now, if you take the animals out of the circus cars and you push it through, that works just fine. But with them added in there, you can't really do anything because, well, the animals would just hit the tunnel or the bridge or wherever they're trying to go through. So the circus cars pretty much can only be played on any set that doesn't have any tunnels or bridges to go under, because otherwise you're faced with this problem right here. Now here is something that I find really special. Now, I'm sure that there are a number of people that would agree with me on this. That this particular item is very special. This is the Sodor mail car. And the Sodor mail train has been featured quite a number of times in the TV series. But I think that it was released very limited in the Thomas Wooden Railway form. There weren't a lot of releases of the Sodor mail car, or at least this version of it anyway. But at least it is a very expensive thing to find off of eBay, even if you are getting one used. If you are getting one new in the box, the price would probably be very high. But even used and in good condition, it probably would cost very much. At least it did for me. This one was probably over $45, but I'm pretty happy to have it regardless. This is another thing that I just got very recently, in the past couple of weeks, during the build of this wooden railway set. And this one does not have the name under it like some of the later Thomas Wooden Railway releases had. So this is a release of the Sodor Mail car before they started putting the names underneath the characters. And I think that when they started putting the names under the characters, they started only doing that for the new characters, but then they decided to do the same thing for re-releases of existing characters, you know, not just doing the new characters. But regardless, this is one that came out before they started putting the names underneath all of the rolling stock, at least for the new, well, at least for the existing releases of the trains. Now, I'm not quite sure what it is about this that just got me so interested when I was a kid. I think it could be because it's red, and I happen to like the color red when I was a kid. Now, the thing here about the Sodor Mail car is that I pretty much had pictured it being pulled by Thomas when I was a kid. In fact, let's get Thomas here. Oh, wrong side. There we go. Yeah, it's kind of hard to turn the turntable around because, you know, the wheels are very close to the edge. You know, it's kind of hard to turn them. I think I will just leave it at that. Yeah, I pretty much had pictured Thomas pulling the Sodor Mail car, even though in the most recent TV series episodes, Percy is the one that pulls the mail train, but in some of the early seasons, both Percy and Thomas pulled the Sodor Mail train. And, you know, it probably would be good if I could actually get multiples of the Sodor Mail car, but here are a couple of reasons why I'm not going to be doing that. One is because, well, it'd be too expensive, and it's very hard to find Sodor Mail cars both at all and at a decent price. And second, I only needed one for this wooden railway set, and I'm very happy to have this one, so this is what I am going to be settling with. I am aware there is also the much shorter Sodor Mail car, and I may get that at some point. I don't have any plans to, anyway, at least not right now. But, you know, every version of the Sodor Mail car that looks just like this one, or at least every Sodor Mail car like this one, this is pretty much the only one that I am ever going to be getting, because I think that it's pretty good to just have one in my collection. We have changed locations on this wooden railway set to take a look at another accessory that is included in this set. This is the Sodor Bay tugboat, and well, underneath that, it's kind of hard to tell. Actually, you know, I think it's very easy to tell underneath. It's actually a lot easier to see it on the camera than it is seeing it in person. But it says Sodor Bay tugboat, and of course it does have the name under it, so this was a release from after the time that they started putting the names underneath the different trains and other rolling stock. Which is interesting that they would do that for a tugboat which doesn't even go on the rails or even on the road. So, the Sodor Bay tugboat, it was actually something that I was not that very impressed in, you know, when I was making the list of things that I needed to get for this set right here. So, pretty much I just got it because it was part of the set and I wanted it to be complete. But the thing is that after I had opened up the packaging from eBay and I actually saw this in my hand, I was very impressed with just how good it looked. In fact, it's in very nice condition. It certainly looks a lot better than it did in the images. And, well, the thing about this tugboat right here is that, well, it obviously does not have a face. It's not one of the characters that has a face on it. But it does have the Sodor Bay on it, on the side. And, well, not really sure what else there is to say. It has a cab that is red and a body that is yellow. As for the different locations that are included on this set, we do get the classic roundhouse, where the engines can go in, being attached to the roundabout turntable, which can be used alternatively from the five-way track that was included in the original roundhouse set. And I find that to be pretty interesting because it looks more realistic to, well, both the roundhouse in the TV series and roundhouses in real life, where they actually have a turntable on the roundhouse. And then over here we have the special engine shed, which I actually have two of these since childhood, since, well, I used one for this set because I had it, and I went ahead and used it. It also comes with this stone tunnel, which you actually saw earlier when I was talking about how the circus cars can't go through tunnels because of how tall the animals are. And over here we have the Sodor Bay Bridge, I think that it's called. The blue iron bridge over there. I actually have three of these. One of them was actually included with the Thomas and Bertie's race set. But, you know, these are the two that came in the original Sodor Bay Bridge set. And then over here, there is these riser pieces right here. And I did have a couple of pieces for the rising bits when I was a kid, but I did not have enough to create this set. So I had to get more of them in order to complete this. And I actually have a bit more than what was needed now, but, you know, as long as I had what I needed, that was all that mattered. Now the thing is that I'm not sure if it's just me, but I'm kind of having a bit of issues with the, you know, the turning track and getting, yeah, you see, it just jolts down. I'm not sure if I'm doing anything wrong or if it just does not work. But yeah, so I think it's quite clear that either I've done something wrong or it just is not working all that great. But anyway, the rising track, very impressive to look at, even if it has some difficulties on the bottom. But, you know, I guess you could build it in a different way so that you don't have this sort of issue with the track turning. And then over here we have the Sodor engine repair shed, and this is actually one that I have gotten very recently for this set, and it's a double engine shed where engines can go. And although it's called the Sodor engine repair shed, you can actually use this for any old shed, not just for repairing engines. And something that I found interesting about the Sodor engine repair shed is that they do have two sets of doors on them, one on one side and one on the other side. And the thing here is that they actually do still have these points right here for the edges, well, for the adding more track in the back later, but the doors can open up, and if you wanted to, you could just add more track onto the back right there. Of course, on this set, there's no room to do that, but it's quite clever that they didn't bother putting any buffers on the back right there, because they figured that kids could just leave the doors closed like that. Unless there was some kid that wanted to go ahead and just do that. Just have a train go through the door and then fall off the track. I'm pretty sure there were some kids that thought of doing that when they got this shed. Or they may have figured that they could have just added some buffers to the back or something like that, and it would work out just fine. As for the accessories that are included on this set, it did come with a Sir Topham hat and a driver and a bunch of trees, although I am pretty much aware that the trees that I used for this set are not entirely accurate to what the original set had. In fact, I'm not quite sure if the original set had exact trees or specific trees included in it, or the variation of the trees that were included in that set were actually random in each release of this set. You can go ahead and tell me if you know that they were or weren't, but if they were not randomized, I just did not want to bother buying multiple trees to try to be very accurate to what the original set had. In fact, I'm not entirely sure if there is an accuracy to what trees were included in this set, but since I had so many of them already, I just did not want to bother buying any more of them, because I have plenty of trees already, so there's that. And of course, you will notice that some of the trees are some of the earlier ones and some of the later ones, you know, with some trees having this sort of trunk right here where you have these ends right there, and then the later releases had them be more rounded on the end, like you can see on that red tree over there. And the set also came with a signal. Well, a couple signals anyway. There's this one, and then there are the two on this pedestrian bridge right here. Now, the pedestrian bridge is one that I had gotten off of eBay very recently. I got the full set on that, which includes a set of these staircases which can be added onto the pedestrian bridge for pedestrians to walk over. And it also did come with this driver right here, which looks very different from the people that I had before, because this one looks like he has a sticker on it, and the others did not have stickers. Well, at least not the ones that I had anyway. They just had a print on them. And it also did come with this double-ended track right here. And I do find this track to be very impressive, actually. But they were not required for this set right here, so I did not include them on this wooden railway set. I just used the pedestrian bridge as well as these signals on top, because that was what was needed, and I find it to be very interesting. But I do plan, when I start using this on my own wooden railway sets, I do plan on actually using the stairs and the long track for, you know, the wooden railway set. But I just didn't use them this time because the set did not need for me to use them. And then right here we have this sort of watermill set, or watermill house. I'm not quite sure what it's supposed to be. And the thing here is that I actually was not able to get the roof of this watermill set on. And so what you're looking at is actually a custom-made roof that I made out of the stuff called Model Magic. I did not want to bother trying to find another roof on eBay, so I just decided to make my own roof. Now, I think it's actually, the real one is actually much flatter than the custom one that I've made, but I just did not want to bother with that. So I'm pretty happy with the custom roof that I have, even if it doesn't look anything like the actual real roofs. And it also did come with a couple of fence pieces, which are included in the original set. And then lastly, there is this lighthouse right here. And over in the lighthouse, we have what appears to be Sir Topham Hatt, and I guess the lighthouse keeper, because he has a pipe in his mouth, and the lighthouse can rotate, and that looks pretty good. Kind of short, but it does work out pretty well with this set right here. And that there is the Thomas Wooden Railway Roundhouse set from 1997. At some point in time, I may decide to also do the 2000 version of the Roundhouse set, or the 2000s version, the one that came out during the 2000s. Not sure the exact release year of that set, but you know, when I get around to it, when I manage to get all the pieces that I need to build that set, I may do a review on that one, but it could actually be a while. But I do plan on looking over some other sets. In fact, there actually is another one that I can do right now, which this set can help me make, as well as a couple other pieces that I already have. So be on the lookout for that, and I will talk to you again in my next video. See you later.